Help! I have to pretend to be the prince I fucked last night. I kissed a stranger who looked like me, and now I'm being forced to take his place. I woke up, naked, to a girl smiling at me from the end of my bed. That alone would be enough for a weird morning, but it didn't end there. She stood perfectly still, holding a tray and wearing a uniform that looked straight out of a fancy period drama. Zero signs she was surprised, or even mildly interested in the fact that I was completely undressed. She bowed, and I nearly choked on air. "Good morning, Your Highness. Would you like your bath drawn, or do you prefer breakfast first?" Your Highness? My brain glitched. I clutched at the covers, trying to act cool and probably failing miserably. The room didn't help. It was way too large, sparkling with gold details, a chandelier overhead, and holy crap, was that an actual crown sitting on the nightstand? I scanned for anything familiar and got nothing. Absolutely nothing. Except a hangover pounding behind my eyes and flashes of last night. Masks, dancing, someone laughing, a guy with my hair and my face. I cleared my throat, still hiding everything important under the blanket. Breakfast? And maybe some pants first? She nodded, like I'd just requested extra whipped cream on my pancakes, set down the tray, and, without missing a beat, handed me a silk robe. "You have an audience in 20 minutes, Your Highness," she said, gliding from the room before I could ask a single question. Audience. Crowd. Naked. I stared at myself in the mirror, red hair everywhere, green eyes wide and bewildered, and wondered what the hell kind of night I'd just survived. I barely remember how I got in. 1 second I was outside, tipsy and laughing with my friend in a foreign country, and the next I was stepping through giant iron gates into what looked like Versailles on steroids. Chandeliers, champagne, fountains that probably spit gold if you looked at them right. Everyone wore masks, some simple, some ridiculous, and everyone acted like they belonged. I didn't. I was just the +1 of a +1, but I looked good. My mask was on straight, and the champagne was free, so I kept going. The thing about nights like that, you don't realize they're turning into a story until it's way too late. A lost track of time, of people, of logic. And then, him. He caught me off guard, just appeared out of the crowd like a ghost in a tux, all lean lines and lazy confidence, black velvet mask, sharp jaw, red hair just a bit longer than mine, curling at the ends, green eyes that looked like they could see through the mask, through me. Something about him made my brain stutter, like looking into a warped mirror. We had the same face, almost, but I was already a few drinks in, and the lighting was weird, and honestly, I just thought I was drunk and vain. "You look lost," he said, voice smooth, like dark chocolate and danger. "You look like me," I meant to say, but what actually came out was, "I'm not lost, just vibing." God. He smiled. That slow, secret kind of smile like he knew I'd regret this in the morning, and was already looking forward to it. He offered his hand. I took it. We danced. We didn't talk much. Every time I tried to ask something normal, his name, where he was from, he'd dodge it with a smirk or pull me closer. It didn't feel real. Nothing did. Not his hands on my waist, not his breath at my ear, not the way he looked at me like he'd been waiting all night to find me. And maybe he had. I remember a hallway, a door opening, laughter that wasn't mine, then heat, silk sheets, that birthmark on his lower back shaped like a crown, and right before I passed out, he kissed my forehead and whispered, "Forgive me." I didn't even have time to ask for what. They handed me a robe, a crown, and a brush, like I knew what to do with any of them. I was still trying to figure out which fork to use when someone led me into a room full of portraits. Big, dramatic oil paintings of royal people doing royal things, and right in the center, him, Alessandro, or me. Same red hair, same stupid cheekbones, same face. I froze, full body shut down. "That's His Royal Highness's official coronation portrait," the royal painter said behind me, all proud, surely expecting some reward again. I turned slowly. Right. Cool. Love that for him. My stomach dropped. I wasn't just being mistaken for the prince. I was the prince now, at least as far as everyone else was concerned. I had duties and responsibilities, and people's hopes depended on me. And I was starting to realize this wasn't some one-time mix-up. They really thought I was him. By the time they shoved me into a coat with shoulder pads bigger than my self-esteem, I'd already tried to escape twice. Didn't work. The guards are very fast. Then, I was seated at this long, terrifying table with 10 people who all looked like they could kill me with a raised eyebrow. The Royal Council, or the Stress Committee, as I've decided to call them. They talked taxes, trade routes, something about a neighboring duke being insulted over an elk. I nodded, smiled, said, "Let's be diplomatic," which is something I heard in a movie once. They all nodded like I was a genius. One guy kept looking at me funny, older, sharp-eyed, advisor vibes. He leaned in and said quietly, "You seem different today, Your Highness." I laughed too loud. New conditioner. He didn't laugh. They told me I was just waving at peasants from a balcony today. Super chill, very harmless. Then the gunshot happened. I hit the floor so fast I knocked over 2 guards and a fancy fruit bowl. Grapes everywhere. Apparently, it missed, barely. I was fine, physically, but I saw the look on everyone's faces. Especially his. Dante. He was at my side in seconds, furious, golden eyes scanning the rooftops like he was ready to fight the entire skyline. His hand hovered near the dagger on his belt, jaw tight, broad shoulders tense under that tailored black uniform. Unfair. He looked like the final boss of a romance novel. "This wasn't random," he said, voice low and clipped, like he was holding back a full-blown storm. And the way he said it, controlled, sharp, but just frayed enough at the edges to feel personal, made something twist in my chest. That wasn't just duty. That was worry. And suddenly it hit me. This wasn't the first time someone had tried to kill the prince. He turned to me, golden eyes burning. "You'll need to be more careful." Right. Careful. Good plan. I wanted to scream, "I'm not him!" Or maybe just, "Please kiss me right now." But all I managed was, "Yeah, I'm starting to get that." Because nothing says totally normal day like nearly dying and falling in love with your bodyguard at the same time. I found it by accident, hidden behind a loose panel in the prince's, my, room. A leather-bound notebook, neat handwriting, angry ink. At first, it was just schedules and palace gossip. Then the tone shifted. Paranoia, frustration. One entry stuck with me. "They don't want a man. They want a puppet. I'm just the face they recognize." Another. "I wish I could just leave it all behind." That's when it hit me. He didn't just vanish. He ran. And now I'm sitting in his stolen life, wearing his clothes, dodging his assassins, and falling for his bodyguard. Awesome. Just absolutely peak life choices, Rowan. "You need to learn to defend yourself," Dante said, tossing me a sword like we were in some medieval boot camp. It hit my palms with a solid thunk. I stared at it like it had just insulted my mother. "I'm more of a words guy," I said, holding it awkwardly. "You know, charming, witty, not stabby." He didn't laugh, just stepped forward, gaze sharp. Words won't stop a blade, especially not the ones aimed at you lately. Fair, but the way he moved, precise, fluid, deadly, was unfair. His muscles flexed with each shift, like the sword was an extension of him. I was supposed to be learning how to not die, but I was too busy imagining what those arms would feel like around my waist. "Loosen your grip," he said, suddenly behind me. I hadn't even heard him move. His hand slid over mine, warm, steady. His breath brushed the back of my neck. "You're too tense." "Hard not to be," I muttered. "Why?" His voice dropped. "Because you were holding a weapon, or because I am touching you?" I didn't answer. Couldn't. My mouth went dry. My pulse jumped. He was so close. Too close. And I wanted to lean back into him. Let him hold me for real, not just guide my stance. But I didn't. Because to him, I wasn't me. I was him, the prince. "You're learning," Dante said quietly, still close. But when he stepped back, I felt colder. I don't think he meant the sword. We got caught in the rain, mid-patrol. Not a light drizzle, soaked to the bone kind of storm. We found cover under a stone archway, both of us breathing and dripping. I was trying not to look at him. I really was. But his shirt clung to him, sheer with rain, outlining every perfect inch of him. My brain had left the building. "You, all right?" he asked, voice low. "Yeah," I said. "Just wet." His lips quirked. "Noticed." I laughed, then immediately regretted it, because now I was aware of how close we were again. Close enough to see the flecks of gold in his eyes. Close enough to feel how warm his body was, even soaked. The air between us changed, like it had weight. His hand lifted, almost touching my face. I didn't move. I wanted him to. But then he pulled back. "You're shaking," he said instead. "You should change." And he turned away, like nothing had happened. But something had. I could still feel the almost of it. And it killed me. That night, I couldn't sleep. Too many thoughts, too much guilt. I wandered the halls and found him outside, sparring alone under the moonlight. He didn't say anything when I sat nearby, just kept moving, graceful and dangerous, and stupidly hot. When he finally stopped, he came over, chest rising and falling fast. "Can't sleep?" he asked. "Nope." He sat beside me, our shoulders brushing. I didn't move. "I've been thinking," I said quietly. "If you knew someone was lying, but they were trying, really trying to do the right thing, would you hate them?" He turned to me slowly. "Is this a confession?" My breath caught. "No, just a question." He didn't look away. "Then my answer is no. I don't want to know the truth, but I wouldn't hate them, especially if their heart was in the right place." I should have said something then, told him, but instead, I leaned in. So did he. Our lips were inches away, but I pulled back, guilt twisting in my gut. "I should go," I whispered. "You're right," he said. "Not Rowan, Alessandro." To him, I was Alessandro. And that was why I left, because I wanted him too much to lie to him like that. Royal dinners are not fun. They're 3-hour-long performances where you smile while being silently judged by people who could have you killed. I was seated between a countess, who smelled like old paper, and a duke, who kept asking when I'd resume talks with the eastern provinces. I had no clue what that meant. I nodded anyway. Across the table, Dante watched me like he knew I was bluffing, not in a cruel way, just observing, like he was waiting to see if I'd sink or swim. I faked it, laughed when they laughed, made vague political noises like, "We'll revisit that in committee." Later, back in my room, I tore off the jacket, slumped on the bed, and whispered, I can't do this. But part of me wondered, what if I could? Lady Seraphina came to me crying. Something about her estate being seized, her brother jailed, old promises Alessandro had made. She called me Your Highness, said she trusted me. I didn't know her. I didn't know her story, but I smiled, nodded, promised to look into it, like I was someone who could fix things. When she left, Dante was waiting in the hall. You, handled that well? He said. No, I didn't. I lied to a grieving woman because I had no idea what else to do. She seemed so sure I'd help her, I muttered, like I was good. Dante's face softened, just for a second. You are. And that hurt more than it should have, because I wasn't. It started with a walk. I'd needed air, space, something that didn't smell like perfume and power. So I ended up in the royal gardens, massive, overgrown, and quiet, except for the gentle snip of shears. An older man looked up from a rose bush, eyes warm and weathered. Your Highness, he said, bowing slightly. Didn't think I'd see you back here. I tried to smile. Just needed a break. He nodded like he understood. You used to come here all the time, before before everything. I tilted my head. Before what? The gardener hesitated, then sighed. After what happened to Matteo, I figured you might never come back here. I blinked. Matteo? He glanced around, then leaned in, lowering his voice. I know it's not my place, but the way you cut him off, after all he did for your family, it broke him. The man worshipped you. You don't forget people like that. I didn't know what to say. My throat felt tight. Right. Yeah. He trailed off and turned back to the roses. I stood there, the weight of it settling on my shoulders. Who was Matteo? What had Alessandro done? More importantly, what else had the real prince walked away from? And how many people, like this gentle, tired gardener, were waiting for a ghost to apologize? It was late. I couldn't sleep. Dante was stationed outside my room again, like always, stone-faced, arms crossed, pretending he wasn't the kind of beautiful that made it hard to breathe. I opened the door. Come in. Just for a second. He didn't hesitate. No armor, no weapons, just him. I poured us wine. We sat too close on the couch, knees brushing. I felt the heat of him like a magnet, pulling. He looked at me like I was something delicate and dangerous all at once. Why do you care so much? I asked, quieter than I meant to. He didn't blink. Because, I know what the life has put you through. I've seen what this place does to a people, what the power does. And you're still a kind, still a you. His voice softened. After your parents died, you were thrown into a world of knives dressed as smiles. You've been fighting ever since, and somehow your heart stayed intact. I stared at him, throat tight. I almost told him everything. The party, the kiss, the truth. That I wasn't the boy who lost a king and queen. That I hadn't grown up behind these walls, navigating poison disguised as politics. That I didn't deserve any of this. But he looked at me like he believed in me, and I couldn't shatter that. Not yet. So I kissed him instead. Just once, soft, careful, desperate. Then I whispered, "Good night," and walked away before I did something unforgivable. I wasn't snooping, just trying to clear my head. There was this weird draft in the study, and when I leaned on the edge of a massive, ugly painting of the royal family, it swung open, because of course it did. Behind it wasn't a letter or a secret drawer. It was a narrow passage, a stone tunnel carved into the wall, leading out of the palace. Curious, and honestly, needing answers, I followed it all the way to a cave on the outskirts of town, and there he was, Alessandro, the real prince, looking like the ghost I'd imagined, thinner, quieter, eyes tired but sharp as ever. He stared at me like I was some hallucination from a bad hangover. "How could you do this?" I said. "Leaving me pretending to be you? Leave everything behind?" He sighed, like the weight of 1,000 years crushed his shoulders. "I never wanted this," he said. "The crown, the power, the endless smiles that mean nothing, the cold court of politics." His voice cracked a little when he added, "My parents didn't die naturally. Someone from inside this castle killed them, and they're still hunting me, still trying to finish what they started." He looked away, then back at me, eyes hard. "I saw you. You showed up like a miracle, a chance for me to vanish for good." He shrugged. "I'm not coming back. Not now, not ever." He let me go, freely. "You can leave here too," he said. "Walk away, forget the crown, the court, the danger." I almost did, but I thought about Dante, about the kind people who'd started to trust me, about the kingdom I never wanted but was starting to care for. I shook my head. "I can't leave. Not yet." He nodded, almost proud. "Then you better be ready, because this isn't over." I swallowed hard, knowing that no matter what happened, I was stuck in this nightmare. But maybe, just maybe, I could make it my own. I couldn't take it anymore. The guilt was eating me alive. Every time Dante looked at me with those golden eyes, like I was him, I felt like I was drowning in a lie I couldn't keep pretending. So finally, I told him everything. The party, the kiss, the switch, the lies. I spilled it all, words tumbling out faster than I could stop them. He didn't move, didn't say a thing, just stared at me with that unreadable face of his, golden eyes burning like they saw right through me. Then he whispered, "I knew." I blinked. "You... what?" He took a breath, voice low but steady. "I didn't know how or when, but I felt it. Something was off. You were different, softer, braver in your own way. I tried to guard the prince, but I fell for you." For a moment, it felt like maybe everything could be okay. But then, someone overheard. The next day, chaos exploded in the court. Whispers turned to shouts, fingers pointed. "Fraud!" they cried. "An imposter among us!" The council called me in for questioning. Everyone looked at me like I was a criminal. Dante stood by my side, his presence fierce and protective, but even he couldn't stop the storm. And just when it seemed like things couldn't get worse, the palace gates were smashed open. The real villains, the ones who'd killed the king and queen and tried to finish off Alessandro, stormed in. They didn't know about the switch. They saw me and thought I was the prince. It was chaos. Screams, running footsteps, clashing steel. I could have run, could have told them the truth, but I didn't. I stood in front of the council, in front of Dante and everyone who believed in me, and I made a choice. I fought, not just for myself, for the people who'd started to trust me, for the kingdom I never wanted but had come to love. It wasn't easy. There were moments I thought I'd fail, but somehow I stopped them, saved everyone. When the dust settled, there were no cheers, just stunned silence. And then the council looked at me differently. More than the lost prince, more than a fraud, I was something real, something better. One of them said quietly, "You're more of a prince than he ever was." And maybe, just maybe, they were right. He didn't come back. No dramatic exit, no farewell letter this time, just silence. A trusted guard brought word weeks later. Alessandro had been spotted near the northern coast, boarding a ship with no flag, disguised, alone, free. He wasn't coming back, and for once, I didn't feel like an imposter left holding the bag. I felt like someone who'd been chosen, not because of blood, but because I stayed. I stood before the council, in front of nobles who used to sneer at me, and they bowed. Not to a name, not to a title, to me. It wasn't loud, it wasn't grand, but it was real. People weren't cheering for a title, or a legacy, or even a name that wasn't mine. They were cheering for me. I stood before the throne, crown in my hands. It felt heavier than I remembered, but not in a bad way, just real, solid, like the life I'd built here, like the choice I was about to make. It didn't crash onto my head with a thunderclap, no sudden transformation, no lightning bolts saying, "Congrats, you're king now." It just settled there, quietly. And when I looked out at the crowd gathered in the courtyard, no one was scared anymore. No one was waiting for Alessandro to come back. They were looking at me. The fake prince, the drunk idiot who kissed the wrong stranger at a party, the one who stayed. When I stepped down from the dais, Dante was there, clean cut in his formal black and gold, not as my guard anymore, but something else entirely, something mine. He smiled, golden eyes warm. "You looked less terrified than I thought you would." I snorted. I still might throw up. He laughed, took my hand, just like that, like he'd always known we'd get here, his fingers curled around mine, steady and sure. "You'll be fine," he said softly. "You always were." I turned to him, heart thudding like a drum. He was right. I wasn't pretending anymore. I wasn't lost. I wasn't waiting for someone to tell me who to be. "I didn't just find my place," I told him, smiling. "No?" he asked. "I made it." And I had. With him at my side and a crown I chose to wear, not because I had to, but because this time it was mine. It was late. The palace had fallen into a hush, just the soft whisper of silk curtains brushing against the window frame, the distant murmur of laughter from the kitchens, and the quiet sound of Dante loosening his belt, the leather slipping free with an easy confidence that made my heart skip. Without thinking, I pulled him close, needing to feel something real, something true, after all the chaos, all the lies. His lips met mine, warm and steady, like coming home after being lost for so long. I rested my forehead against his, voice barely more than a breath. "You know I'm not him." Dante's golden eyes held mine, steady and sure. "I don't need you to be him." I swallowed hard, my heart pounding. "I'm scared," I admitted. "Scared I'm not enough. That I'm just a mistake, pretending to be someone I'm not." He smiled, that gentle, fierce smile I'd come to live for. "Rowan, look at me." I did. "You're not a mistake. You're the person I fell for. The one who fought, who stayed, who built something real out of his broken pieces. I love you. All of you." And just like that, everything inside me unraveled. The walls I'd built, the doubts, the guilt. "I love you too," I whispered, tears blurring my vision. He kissed me again, slow and sure, like a promise. No masks, no shadows, just us, in that quiet room, with the whole world outside. I finally felt it. I was home, and this time, I was exactly where I was meant to be. Who do you think Rowan was better paired with, Dante or Alessandro? Thanks for watching. Consider subscribing to become a part of our Rainbow Force, and stay wholesome.